Hey everybody, video here for you today, and I've had a couple questions on this, and this is something I haven't talked about for about 2.5 years, so I thought this was good to revisit this and make a video on it. And I think this is a big mystery as far as how old this structure is. We are heading down to Cholula, Mexico, and this is one of the largest pyramids in the world, and it is still mainly buried by a lot of sedimentation, and that is the first thing that tells me maybe this is real old. But this is all we have today, the Pyramid of Cholula, and I'll go over the measurements of this place, but just the bottom of the base is sticking out, and then the rest is covered by sedimentation. How much sedimentation? Well, we're going to look at that. And this is what they guess is below the summit where a church is on top of today. And I guess that kind of restricts the archaeological work as far as tunneling down from the top. And I'm not sure if that issue has been resolved, but not just a huge massive pyramid, and does it? I just don't think they know what's underneath here. And obviously the sedimentation is just represented on top here, but this is a stone structure all the way up to the top. And what's peeking out looks very impressive, but this work goes on out into plazas and little ceremonial centers outside of here, but we'll take a look at some of that on Google Earth. Now here is another drawing of what they think this place looked like originally, and there is a lot of dirt on top of here, and I think that tells a story, but they don't know who built this. And if I remember right, archaeological work went on here decades ago, and then it was kind of put to a halt, and this place has never been properly looked into. It wasn't until about 100 years ago that they finally realized there was a massive pyramid here, but this is just some of the pics from around the area. This is down near the base. But what is this place associated with? What do the experts say this was built in line with or around the same period? Well, a lot of people, a lot of researchers connect it to Teotihuacan, the way it looks, the way it was built. And we do not know who built Teotihuacan. As far as Teotihuacan in this site, we do not know who built it. There are guesses, names such as the Olmecs, the Toltecs come up. But this place, to me, just really hints that it goes way back into antiquity. But names of more modern cultures are attached to places such as Cholula and Teotihuacan. But the truth is, we haven't a clue on who built these original structures, and there is evidence that later cultures may have added on or improved or done some reconstruction work. But as far as originally who built these, we don't have a clue. Now here is AztecHistory.com, and I will leave the link below. It says Cholula, just outside the city of Puebla, is a site of the massive Cholula Pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Cholula. It says, the area has probably been inhabited for over 3,000 years, and the original pyramid may be over 2,000 years old. Well, they really don't have a clue, but things hint that this is very ancient. It says the Cholula Pyramid, as it appears today, and since the days of Cortez, much of it covered in brush and topped by a church. It says, over 2,000 years ago, Cholula was rising from being a village to being a city of some importance. As the city became a place of power, many of the powerful cultures of Mexico had their turn to rule it, the Olmecs, the Toltecs, and later the Aztecs. The city was once called Acolalan. In Nahuatl means a place of flight or water that falls in the place of flight. This has led some to believe that Cholula was founded after its inhabitants fled from somewhere else. The earliest pyramid was probably built around 200 BC, and they theorize then these later cultures just added on. But when was it originally built? Well, 200 BC. I think it goes back thousands of years, probably before that. From the architecture and items found at the site, we know that Cholula had strong relations with not only nearby cities as Tenochtitlan, but the coast as well, and others connected to Teotihuacan. For example, archaeologists have found seashells beneath one of the altars, an offering to Quetzalcoatl. And I guess this is an altar, an offering to Quetzalcoatl, who came from the sea. Each group that dominated Cholula added to the pyramid technically called a temple, not a pyramid, but certainly that main structure with the steps going up can certainly be called a pyramid by anybody that has studied this. It says each group added to the pyramid until it became the massive structure larger than any of the pyramids of Egypt by volume. The Aztecs believed Cholula, one of the giants from their mythology, had constructed the Pyramid of Cholula, and he was one of 7 giants. Were they giants, or just giants of knowledge who taught them all sorts of things? Well, a few things have been discovered and unearthed here. It says, one mural that was discovered is a life-size scene of drinking and inebriation. It may depict the effects of a drug potion from the period. And from about over 5 years ago, this is one of my videos, and I did a video on that, and some now theorize that that may have been an ayahuasca type drink that they were drinking. As visitors can also explore tunnels alone or with a guide. The base of the Cholula Pyramid measures 450 by 450 meters, or 492 yards on each side, and is 66 meters high, or 72 yards high. But there are miles of tunnels beneath this pyramid, and that seems to be the way it is with these very old pyramids, but I don't think we really have an answer for this place. It says it's a fascinating site to visit and really doesn't get the recognition it deserves as an important historic site and an interesting tourist site. Urbanization of the area encroaching on the pre-Hispanic site kept Cholula and its pyramid off the list of World Heritage Sites. Still, there is no site like it in the world. But just a few general facts. This place by the local people was called the man-made hill or the artificial hill, and in the ancient language of the Nahuatl people, place of refuge. But the dating of this, when did it start? Well, people are not sure, but they give it a general answer. It says the Pyramid Temple Complex was built in 4 stages, starting from the 3rd century BC through the 9th century AD, when the city was dedicated to the deity Quetzalcoatl. And I've talked about Quetzalcoatl. I showed him on Mayan pyramids. Where did he come from? An island that sank beneath the sea. It says the post-classic Aztecs believed that Cholula built the Great Pyramid of Cholula. Who is Cholula? Cholula is one of 7 giants in Aztec mythology who escaped the flood by ascending the mountain of Teoloc in the terrestrial paradise, and afterwards built the Great Pyramid of Cholula. Now, the 7 giants, is that the same as the 7 sages who brought civilization to Egypt, the 7 Anunnaki who brought civilization to that part of the world, or the 7 rays of light who brought civilization to India? Well, it's all the same story. It says according to the Guinness Book of Records, it is in fact the largest pyramid as well as the largest monument ever constructed anywhere in the world, with a total volume estimated at over 4.45 million cubic meters, even larger than that of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, which is about 2.5 million cubic meters. And here is a comparison graph. Down at the bottom here, the green is the Great Pyramid of Cholula, and then this is how big the Pyramid of the Sun is at Teotihuacan, Great Pyramid of Cholula. And how big is the Great Pyramid? This is how big the Great Pyramid is. It is bigger in height-wise, but in total volume, the Great Pyramid of Cholula has more volume in it if you include everything around the area here. But from overhead, there is no alignment. It doesn't appear to be as far as the cardinal points. You just have some stonework sticking out. Some of this has been rebuilt based on what they found under the sedimentation and trees here. But this kind of loses some of its appeal because it's buried by sedimentation. How much sedimentation? Well, in areas it appears to be thousands and thousands of years. Now here we are down on Street View, and here is part of the complex that is lying around the pyramid. A lot under the earth here. Different cultures came along and built along here. This place appeared to be always sacred by cultures who lived around it. Why? Because there's an original pyramid under here that could go back thousands and thousands of years, and we just don't know. And here is a courtyard from down in front of the pyramid. There seems to be an altar here, and some say this is in honor of Quetzalcoatl. But this will just give you an idea of what it looks like down here at the bottom. People have associated this to Teotihuacan, place we don't know who built it. Same questions, I believe, here. This is a very impressive structure under here. And what exactly would we find if we took all these trees and dirt off of here? Well, I think we'd be awestruck, and we'd be looking at a place that we would put on equal grounds with the Great Pyramid in Egypt. Why? Because I think the survivors of a cataclysm built both of these places. But just like the mounds in the United States, when they're covered with trees and dirt and soil, they lose a little bit of their significance in our mind's eye, but they shouldn't. A massive stone structure is underneath here, and here is just out in front of the courtyard, and they have some ceremonial thing built down into the ground here. What this is, I'm not really sure, but this whole place had significance that went back thousands of years and to many different cultures. And then going over to the front, you just look around and you can kind of see in your mind's eye how this is shaped. Comes down here. There's a step here covered up with sedimentation. Here we are on the north side, normal street. Looks like a hill on this side, but this is actually a massive stone structure under here. Maybe an entrance to the tunnel system, but man, this is one cool place I'd love to explore. But underneath here, massive stone structure, a pyramid that goes back, my belief, the best clue, my guess, it goes back thousands of years, not just 2,300 years, goes back a lot farther than that. Now here, I think this is the west side, but you get an idea of the structure sticking out here, stairway, and this does remind me of Teotihuacan. And then we come over here and we have this area that was excavated, and I think there was a little bit of reconstruction done here. Now I say this site could be thousands of years old, and what I really need to base it on is some evidence, but maybe 3000 BCs, possibly, maybe going back maybe to the 9000 BCs. And if I would have said years ago, 9000 BCs as far as any of these structures being built, that would have seemed far-fetched to me, but I think that's when the Sphinx was built. I think that's when the Great Pyramid, however those original structures looked, I think those were built in the 9000 BCs. This place, how much sedimentation is on here? How much of this did they have to dig out? Well, I think here gives you a clue. You can see where the stone structure stops. Now that is a heck of a lot of sedimentation. That looks like how much sedimentation is covering the bottom of the statues at Easter Island. That, I mean, how many years are we talking about? Does this go back, way back to a time when really researchers really don't care to find out how old this place was? Well, I think about those kind of things, but the sedimentation right here, I think that is clear evidence that maybe we really don't know the full story of how old this place was originally. By the way, these glyphs, or this design on here, if I was to look at this as far as being an Egyptian hieroglyph, this is the glyph for water, and when they're done above and below, that means there is something happening above that all has to do with water, and something below that has to do with water. Is this a story being told in these glyphs? Well, that is a slight possibility. But those of you who like to use Google Earth, this is a pretty cool place to just go look around and try to use your imagination of what this place looked like originally, and try to wrap your head around how much sedimentation is actually on top of this place and how long that would have taken to accumulate. But this video today, just opening up some possibilities. This is a massive stone pyramid. Underneath, sedimentation, a church, trees. Kind of looks like a natural hill when you're in certain places. And you see here, there seems to be a smaller structure buried right here that had everything to do with Cholula. That is the largest by volume pyramid type structure in the world. The answers we have, are they sufficient? Hardly. The work here seems to be kind of incomplete, inadequate, more questions than answers. But that is a video that I've been meaning to make for a while. This is a place maybe connected in some way to Teotihuacan in Mexico, but hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.